So yesterday caused quite a ruckus on Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, just about everywhere. Everybody, for the most part, especially my PvE players, are very upset with the nerfs coming with Season of Opulence. If you have not checked out that video, guys, feel free to check it out. Again, though, I want to mention that these are just a fraction or a piece of the Sandbox details that are to come, which leads me to believe that we may be looking at maybe a few other nerfs, a few other weapons being reined in. I think we could potentially be seeing a mountaintop nerf coming as well, and maybe even a recluse nerf. Now, again, I would like to mention that these nerfs that are handed out to these weapons, Bungie has the ability now in Destiny 2 to nerf something directly in PvE or in PvP. Hence why something like Kill Clip doesn't amplify the damage as much in PvP as it does in PvE. The same with something like multi-kill clip and so on and so forth. They have the ability to cap weapon damage inside of PvP, but simultaneously still keep it powerful in PvE. But I do believe Recluse is probably going to be dealt with in some way. Don't know how it's going to be dealt with. And Mountaintop, considering how much damage it can do in PvE. Like I said the other day, I think a lot of people were surprised when I said that Mountaintop was like one of the best damage dealing weapons inside of PvE. I think it's probably also going to be dealt with in some way. With that being said, today's video is not talking about nerfs or even talking about yesterday's nerfs. No, I like to stay on the other side of things. The first choice, as Bungie mentioned, which is to buff underused weapons and armor. Now, there is so many armor pieces in so many weapons that we can run through that are underpowered. But specifically, today's gameplay is actually some gameplay with Mask of the Quiet One, which actually surprisingly has a 5 out of 5 rating inside of Destiny Item Manager. But let's face it, guys, everything that this mask does, One-Eye Mask does way better. You see, guys, it grants you the exotic perk Dreaded Visage, which grants ability energy when you're damaged, and when critically wounded, you also regain maximum health on kills. Now, that's just your health, up to like 100 health, or maybe even a little less. Your shield doesn't regenerate. This is just your health, which has some benefits. I'm not going to say I didn't use it. There's a lot of times that I really depended on it to get me out of a situation and keep me alive. And it's generally a good helmet, but it's so overwhelmed by a helmet so similar to it, which is One-Eye Mask. It doesn't have the tracking that One-Eye Mask has, doesn't have the damage buff that One-Eye Mask gets, and it doesn't get the overshield that One-Eye Mask gives as well. All of these things makes Mask of the Quiet One pretty much an option temporarily until someone actually gets One-Eye Mask, and then they just throw it in the vault for the most part. And this is just a good example of many exotic armor pieces and weapons in a very similar situation. A Reddit post right here actually states, Bungie, no matter how bad you make Orpheus Rigs, I will never use Mechanier's Trick Sleeves. Orpheus Rigs is one of the exotics that are also getting a nerf in the next season. How bad it's going to be nerfed, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But just to take that one comment and just kind of narrow down on it, when we look at Mechanier's Trick Sleeve, it comes with the exotic intrinsic perk Spring-Loaded Mounting, which increases sidearm ready and reload speed. Also, while you're critically wounded, swapping to a sidearm increases its damage. Now, you can see right off the bat, there's some constraints there. Number one, to really take advantage of the sidearm, you've got to be critically wounded, which is pretty much one shot. Not only that, I've constantly complained about Mechanier's Trick Sleeves because if you happen to have your sidearm out and you become critically wounded, the perk does not activate right then and there. No, you actually have to swap to your other weapon, swap back to your sidearm while critically wounded in order to take advantage of the perk, which 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be dead before you can even do that. A great example here, guys, of an exotic that doesn't necessarily even need a buff. It just needs an outright rework. Mechanier's is one of those exotics that I would say had a place in year 1, but even then it was a difficult place to really thrive in because that was back before we had one-hit kill weapons. Now that you've got shotguns, you've got weapons like Recluse, fusion rifles. Taking advantage of this perk on Trick Sleeves just isn't going to happen often, if ever. About the only thing you're going to really take advantage of is the sidearm ready and reload speed. That's the extent of it. So I'm not disagreeing with some of the things that are outliers. Like that's the thing, guys. Whisper wasn't an outlier to some extent. I would have definitely not just jumped out there and killed off White Nail. I would have been like, all right, listen, when you get to the final 3 shots of the magazine, yes, that's when White Nail can be procced and can continue to keep regenerating ammo, which would have really put the pressure on. You know, you're at the last 3 shots of that thing. My lord, if you land all 3 shots 30 times in a row or something, Jesus, give the man some ammo. So I wouldn't have just like outright killed it. But the other things, the super regeneration armor, those were definitely being utilized more than a lot of other exotic armor pieces in the game. But it's not just because of the super regeneration that you got from it, outside of maybe Skull. Skull, by the way, for Nova was pretty dang nasty, guys. You gotta admit, Skull, as much fun as it was an absolute outlier. But looking at the other exotics in that group, which is also going to be receiving somewhat of a nerf, I used a lot of these just simply because a lot of other exotics were just garbage. When was the last time you saw anyone use the Ion gauntlets? Ever. Ion, Aeon, these things. When was the last time you saw anyone ever said, hey man, make sure you got your Aeon safes on tonight. We're going in deep, boys. Nobody, because they're garbage. Now, I'm gonna go and give Bungie the benefit of the doubt because I honestly think this week is the week we see the nerfs. I think Bungie wanted to break the news to us 2-3 weeks before the new season, and I'm hoping, God, I am hoping that next week is gonna be full of buffs. That Bungie is gonna be showing us the complete opposite side of what they showed us yesterday. And these handful of exotics that we just mentioned here today, which by the way is a very small piece to all of the exotics in the game that are really just not that good. I'm hoping we see a TWA that is buffing all of those things. Now, for my people that are wondering, can these nerfs be reversed? It's a good chance it won't be. Not anytime soon. Actually, here on Reddit, Cosmo confirmed that the nerfs will be included next season, regardless of feedback. He stated here that to be clear, these changes are definitely going into the next update. I'll be taking feedback from players who are responding to the changes on paper and will continue to take feedback after players get the weapon armor in their hands and are able to test it out for themselves. Now, the reason why I think it's definitely going to place, guys, like even if yesterday, you know, a lot of people blew up and said, listen, Bungie, we don't like this. And Bungie said, all right, we need to go ahead and reverse this. I'm almost certain that they've already pushed this patch to Sony and Microsoft, and this is already like in the chamber, on its way, patch notes, ready to be downloaded and go live here in the next few weeks. It's like, even if they wanted to reverse it, I just don't think they can. Now, I also think this is something they're going to try because if you remember correctly, Destiny 1 going into Destiny 2, that last year, Rise of Iron, think about all of the changes that happened during those 12 months. How many things happened Sandbox-wise that was pushed on us in Destiny 1 to prepare us for Destiny 2? The special nerf being the big one. Time to kill for many weapons, which were like sub 0.8 seconds, all started getting their TTK values being pushed up to like 0.85, 0.9. All of that was happening during that final year of Destiny, and a big reason why was because they were trying to prepare us for the double primary sandbox that was coming to us in Destiny 2. Something that none of us had any clue was coming until, of course, like what, E3 or the Bungie event that they had before launching Destiny 2. This could be Bungie's way of kind of showing us what they're going to be bringing us in Destiny 3. And I know a lot of people think, are we all just going to be looking at nerfed weapons? No, I don't know if that's necessarily the answer. I think we're going to be looking at what Ananda Nan said months ago, that Destiny 3 is going to be such a hardcore game that even players that feel like they are hardcore now in Destiny 2 are going to feel like absolute casuals inside of Destiny 3. And that statement can be taken like many ways. My lord, I don't even know what to even make of that. I believe what they're trying to say is the game is going to be entering its final stage. This will be Bungie's final baby, Destiny, whatever it's going to be called. If it's going to be called Destiny 3, Destiny Universe, and it's going to be hardcore, probably on the level of like old school RPG games, you know, specifically like World of Warcraft. When you've got a mass amount of Bungie developers that are like old school WoW players and ran some of the oldest clans inside of World of Warcraft, yeah, I believe, especially since they've gotten out of contract with Activision, their goal is to make this super hardcore looter shooter RPG game of some sort, especially given the fact that casual Destiny 2, when it first launched, and it was super casual, absolutely blew up in their face. Bungie goes to extremes, guys. They go to extremes. Think about the jump from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2. How casual the game got. How easy it was to beat Callus on day one. I mean, it wasn't like super easy, but I mean, come on, it was fairly easy in comparison to something like Forsaken and the Last Wish raid. So I believe, guys, what we could be looking at is the hardcore definition that Anon9 was speaking of is the lack of cheesy stuff going into Destiny 3. Again, this is many, many months out. I don't see us looking at another new Destiny game until September of next year. I know many of you are going to be upset. You're probably saying the hell with this game already. I'm going to Borderlands 3. Hell, I'm going to be playing Borderlands as well. But the reality is, you know, Destiny has always been able to reel me in. And I don't see them not being able to reel me in for this coming up season and for seasons to come. It's not for everybody. And I get comments all the time. People are upset with the way the game is going for them right now. People are not having fun. I play this game 10 to 12 hours a day, which is probably not the healthiest, but I still enjoy it, man. And I know that sounds crazy. And it doesn't make sense to a lot of players, especially for those that have already quit the game or taken a break from it. Is this the right direction for them to be going with these set of nerfs? For me, obviously, the first option would be to buff many of our other exotics. But again, like I said, I'm giving Bungie the benefit of the doubt. I'm giving them a week to 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks at most. I'm hoping to see a Sandbox update in front of me, a set of patch notes for 20 or more exotics that are going to be getting very nice, healthy buffs and absolute reworks to some of their exotic perks, especially for those that really have no purpose in our current Sandbox. So guys, that is my thoughts. Just kind of wanted to wrap things up today. I'm not ready to light the torches just yet. I know some of y'all are asking for us to boycott Destiny and Bungie. I'm not doing it yet. I got to see the full patch notes for me to really make an assessment. Now, if we get the full patch notes out and it's like, hey, these 30 or so exotics that you were hoping to get buffed, we're not touching them, and we're also going to be nerfing this weapon and that weapon and everything else, we gonna have words. But like I said, I really believe we're going to be looking at a set of buffs. God, I hope so. Because if Bungie doesn't have something like that ready for us next week or the week after, God help us all. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.